Deep in Afghanistan, a 4-man U.S. Navy SEAL team has been ambushed by the Taliban and is now in mortal danger. A rescue mission has been launched, but the Special Operations helicopter has just been shot down, killing all reinforcements inside. Among those killed in the crash are an additional 8 Navy SEALs. The safest point for extraction is alongside a mountain, with a clearance of only 5 feet to the left and right of the helicopter rotors. Faced with the possibility of an enemy capturing and killing the only surviving SEAL team member as well as possible third ambush, the U.S. Air Force Combat Search and Rescue teams accept the mission and are launched on a 2-day search and rescue and search and recovery mission. As a former cadet of the U.S. Air Force Auxiliary and with experience working with members of this special operations community, I can assure you that these men are willing to do whatever asked of them because they know should things go bad, there is a dedicated force ready to bail them out and to bring them home. Since 9/11, the operational tempo of these special operators has been high. From Libya to Mali and as far east as the Philippines, many operators remain deployed, conducting raids and gathering intelligence that will eventually help keep you and I safe. These men are husbands, fathers, brothers, friends, and some of them are neighbors. When at home, these men train to fight. Whenever these men are deployed, they are constantly fighting to get home. But who will be there when these Navy SEALs, Army Rangers, Special Forces, EOD techs, and air crews become stranded? This becomes a critical mission of the United States Air Force Combat Search and Rescue units. However, in recent years, our special operators have been fighting deeper behind enemy lines, and the Air Force's current fleet of HH-60G helicopters have begun to age, denying the Air Force the ability to continue rescuing personnel within the golden hour during such clandestine operations. Therefore, today, by defining combat search and rescue, by discussing the evolution of the Air Force's mission of combat search and rescue, and by discussing the challenges within the U.S. Air Force's HH-60G fleet, I want to persuade you that as citizens living in a military town, it is our obligation to alert Congress and of the urgent need of replenishing the U.S. Air Force's combat search and rescue helicopter fleet. First, let's understand the mission of combat rescue. Combat search and rescue is a specific task performed by rescue forces to effectively recover distressed personnel during war or military operations other than war. Combat search and rescue is one of 4 subsets of the United States military personnel recovery system, and although all 4 branches of the U.S. military are CSAR capable, it is a United States Air Force specialty. It is the goal of these units to infiltrate enemy territory and to recover wounded, isolated, or captured personnel. The U.S. Air Force is the only service to train, organize, and equip forces solely to carry out this specific task. Its forces are the pararescue, SEER specialists, pilots, various air crews, and a host of support personnel. According to joint doctrine, each service and the United States Special Operations Command are responsible for performing CSAR in support of their own operations, consistent with assigned functions. The joint doctrine also assigns each service responsibility for its own CSAR because it is not feasible for any one service to fill the force structure necessary to routinely conduct CSAR in support of another component's operations. However, this doctrine leads to a situation where the CSAR capabilities that reside in each service vary widely, ranging from a limited capability in the United States Army to a robust, dedicated capability in the United States Air Force. So pretty much what this means is that the United States Navy has its own Navy rescue and the Army has its own Army rescue. No one's really going to be great at it because they don't have a dedicated force. The Air Force is the only force with a dedicated force. With this dedicated force, the Air Force has a 3-weapon system that encompasses a rotary wing, fixed wing, and then the personnel. The rotary wing would include the HH-60 helicopters, the fixed wing, the HC airplane, which will allow personnel to parachute behind enemy lines, and then finally the personnel, which will be the pararescue operators. Now that we understand the Air Force's mission of combat rescue, let's look at how the Air Force's mission of combat rescue has evolved. Before June 2005, the AFDD 2.16 stated, "Down air crew are the most likely personnel to require a U.S. Air Force CSAR effort during the military operations. Therefore, Air Force CSAR doctrine focuses on this type of operation." But these missions were typically launched from within a short range, and that of today's missions. The type of missions flown and personnel rescued so far in the global war of terror tells a different story. This story shows that the U.S. Air Force's CSAR assets is much different than the traditional down air crews that Air Force doctrine considers most likely to require CSAR efforts. During the war and operations other than war, personnel operating beyond the forward line of troops, so all aviators, special operation forces, long-range reconnaissance patrol members, are clearly in more danger than others of becoming prisoners of war. This was a quote from the Department of Defense's Instruction 1300.21. The global war on terrorism has transcended the traditional role of Csar. Many of the missions received by the Air Force were missions that other air assets could not execute due to a lack of light illumination, range, and adequate terrain following technology, all of which is standard in the Air Force's HH-60Gs. So with the understanding of the mission of the combat rescue and how it's evolved, let's discuss why it is important to replenish the Air Force's current fleet of HH-60Gs. The U.S. Air Force's HH-60s are old and can no longer handle the operational tempo of today's global war on terror. They are derived from an earlier model of Army Black Hawks that were fielded in 1982 and originally had an estimated operational life of 7,000 flying hours. But as of 2012, it was discovered that the initial 112 HH-60s received, 93 were flyable, and all 93 had some kind of structure issues. Amongst the 93, there were some in which, in one case, the refueling probe actually fell off during mid-air flight, therefore showing the seriousness in the structural issues. The current fleet of HH-60s lack the capability of long-range rescue as well. They're not able to go beyond a certain range, which is about 532 nautical miles. In today's engagements, like that of Libya, other assets have been used to recover the downed personnel because the Air Force's helicopters just couldn't reach. So the Air Force had begun a procurement process and is still continuing that process, wherein which they're looking at the HH-47, which is a Chinook helicopter. It's based off the Army's MH-47. This helicopter would enable the Air Force to be able to reach beyond 800 nautical miles, which is pivotal in today's Csar mission. The U.S. Air Force's Combat Search and Rescue Force has been able to prove its operational worthiness, oftentimes at a moment's notice, and has procured interest in replenishing its aging fleet of HH-60G helicopters in order to best meet current and future engagements. They should be permitted to do so. To deny the Air Force's opportunity could in time deny and make it ineffective the Csar mission. With the global war on terror now in its 13th year, service logs of the aging HH-60G suggest that it's time for the Air Force to replenish this fleet. With new threats such as North Korea, Syria, and Iran increasing its military operations, it is imminent that we have Csar units capable of serving worldwide at any moment. Captain Josh Abel, the pararescueman that rescued Navy SEAL Marcus Luttrell, quotes that he received a text message from him saying, "Thanks, bro. Since then, I have talked with him at least once a month. It's odd though. We did the mission and we got to the area where the first helicopter was shot down. We could see his Char remains on the ground. I couldn't help but wonder why we made it and they didn't."